It's so funny what you remember and what you block out. I've
Yeah, for
completely
sure.
blocked out.
Yeah.
But yes, this is something I can say for sure. My, let's call it, meta navigation is horrible.
Uh-huh.
My girlfriend as well is amazing at going. She can be standing anywhere in the street and she'll know where north, south, east, and west is directly.
Mhm.
For me, I have to work so hard to understand that on a meta level. But if we flip it, my, let's call it like micro navigation of my body, my sense of direction in the moment and spatial awareness, so like clear and accurate to me. It's so interesting how biased I am. I'm not so sure if those systems are even interrelated, but it seems like it makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Uh, Something we were speaking about with Nancy the other day was just this kind of hilariousness of her being a little bit more clumsy in the moment with the small things, but unbelievably amazing at navigation. And I
Mhm.
am the worst navigator on the planet Earth, as Neil knows all too well.
Yeah.
Um, so what I was going to say is there was a period when we met where you were far more into movement training, conditioning. You'd spend a few years doing CrossFit, Olympic lifting, and I presume at the time you weren't really doing any skateboarding. There was a transition where you went from school to university. You did your sports science degree. How was that transition? There was maybe what, 3, 4, 5 years.
Hmm. Yeah, I think it definitely there was the thing where I was coming from skateboarding, going through my creative phases, and then I slowly found myself more into strength conditioning and then CrossFit and sports science studies. And definitely my whole mindset started to shift more towards this more scientific, rational thing where I kind of blocked out or forgot a little bit about this creative side that was so deep inside of me. So definitely there were a couple of years, maybe like you were saying, 4 or 5, where it was really like deep into strength and focusing on training programs and following that, and more on the rational side maybe of living and training and practicing. Um, yeah, and then if we directly want to go from there back again to the acrobatics, there was again a pivoting moment because I was going from this creative thing into the more rational, and then I found a mentor, Tom Wexler, which you also know, also had some work with him. And he again, with his acrobatics and his style of moving and style of being, reminded me so much again of the creative side that through him, I again found this uplifting wave more into where I'm still now of embracing more creativity, I guess. I definitely integrate both sides, but there was definitely a very interesting wave
Yeah,
happening.
yeah, I definitely feel that. What I think that's interesting that relates to both skateboarding, CrossFit, and also into acrobatics, but we'll start first of all in CrossFit and skateboarding, is the need for repetition.
Mhm.
It's different, but I think it's interrelated. In skateboarding, there's a desperate need for repetition to learn
Mhm.
and to really refine a skill, learn a skill. And in CrossFit, of course, it's just all about repetition. It's all about the quantity and the volume. And I wonder, what role did repetition play in your, not only your learning process, but also your relationship with fear and risk? And this is really the red thread of our conversation today, is to explore your own relationship with risk. I feel like you have a really nice one, and I'd love to
Mhm.
pull more from that. So let's start with repetition.
Yeah.
Where was that influential?
So in skateboarding, repetition for me was, once again, like I said before, I was not this guy throwing myself down stair sets on the first try. Some people can do that and they need less repetition. They are so strong mentally that they can just commit on the first try. So they need less repetitions, right? If we want to talk about this. Me, on the other hand, I needed so many repetitions to feel out where I am. How far can I go? Can I go just a little bit further? And every try is a repetition. So skateboarding for me was really um, high rep practice, let's repetition practice, doing so many countless repetitions of a certain trick, of a combination, jumping downstairs so many times, and then also not landing on my board, but bailing and running away. But definitely a repetition was like the bread and butter of my relationship to risk and fear back then. Uh, yeah.
Did you like rep also the bailing, or was that just an intuitive aspect?
That was intuitive. Now I'm doing it much more intentional, but back in the day in skateboarding, I think I didn't thought about bailing, but I just did it. It was just my way of feeling safe and secure.
Yeah. Do you feel there's a difference from the intentional nature and how you would bail now comparative to how you would bail back in the day? Do you feel calmer or safer or more capable or
I think I feel more capable. I think I definitely know more where my boundaries are and my possibilities. But honestly, I don't think there is too much of a difference. I was managing back then quite nicely and still am right now. But now I definitely have much more experience, much more also theoretical ideas and information and different approaches also. Yeah, so definitely a little shift happened. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. Some of the other conversations we've had have spoken a lot about the comfort zone and the expansion of the comfort zone to be a supporter of embracing risk. And the more comfortable you can be in a more risk intense situation, the less likely you are to tense up and injure yourself, and the more likely you are to succeed or to at least bail. I wonder, when you bailed not so well, you must have had some injuries, right?
Yes, but not too bad injuries. For example, I never broke a bone, which some people find crazy because I was skateboarding. But again, it relates back to I was more on the timid, more on the fearful side. So I didn't push myself this far, which is again a two-side thing, because on the one side, I didn't manage to do all of the crazy tricks that friends back then did. But on the other side, now with my age that I am, I can still skate without any pain. I can still do my thing. So definitely it's a given. So I did injure myself, but not on a large scale, like tweaked ankles and hurt wrists, but everything more on the, let's say, conservative side still.
When you were comparing yourself to your friends and immediate kind of buddies back in the day, and they were pushing really hard and you were a little bit more conservative, to use your words, what do you think the driving force for you was? Because I feel like a lot of the time in these more extreme endeavors, the intensity of the experience and the pushing of the limits is really inspiring. I wonder for you, what did you really feel like was driving you?
The deep love for what I was doing, man. It was really just, I loved skateboarding. The whole aspect of me riding my board and being able to look at the world with different eyes and see opportunities and possibilities, and just the standing on a skateboard and rolling around down a street, maybe jumping over a little like pebble or something, even that produced so much joy that the rest was not too important. It was definitely like a little pressure factor, maybe at points, not too big, but still like seeing other people and they were going for things I could never think about doing. But still the love for what I was doing and the options and the creativity and everything that I could do with it was far bigger. So it was really something from very deep inside of me.
It resonates so much with what I felt from parkour, the kind of parkour goggles. When you walk around a space in the urban environment and you see not the urban environment or barriers and blockades and controls, let's say, but you see obstacles and challenges and potential. And I think this relationship with the environment, the immediate environment that you're in, is a really beautiful one, and something that skateboarders have to such an extent. It's really crazy. You introduced me to Andy Anderson a few years ago, and I think he's one of these guys that is so brilliant at seeing the environment as potential. One thing that's in my mind is him skating on the fire hydrants. One of his kind of unique things is the fire hydrant skill, right? What is it that he's doing? He's skating up it, and is he turning around?
Yeah, he's jumping with his board flat on top of a fire hydrant and then spinning around. It's not a trick that he invented. It was already invented like 30 years ago. But still, he's doing it and people recognize for him. Yeah.
I feel like he's someone that is quite inspiring to you. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, definitely, to some extent. I mean, to all of the people, probably not many know Andy Anderson. He's a guy, in skateboarding, there's different disciplines. Now you can ride a half pipe like Tony Hawk. Then you can ride bowls like the empty swimming bowls. Then you can go out on the streets and many different things. And he's basically combining all of them. So he's basically the mover of skateboarding, you want to say that. But yeah, he's combining many different things and therefore creating a very unique style. He's able to perceive external environmental things as obstacles that other skaters would completely dismiss. And definitely there is a lot of inspiration for me in his ability to mix and match things, and to scramble his own skill set and find something else. And also in skateboarding, people don't always appreciate that. There's a lot of like gatekeeping and like more the core skateboarding community that is a little bit more hardcore. And he also kind of like finds courage in simply doing his thing. And he's so unique in his personality, super quirky. And also that is inspiring, that he simply does his thing.
Yeah, I like this idea of not only doing the cool stuff that the culture thinks and deems as the right thing or the cool thing, but just doing the thing that you're curious about.
Yeah, real.
That's really inspiring about him and yourself, I think, is that you find new and interesting things through your own curiosity more than just following the rules or the rights of the culture.
Sure.
Do you think in your persona you're a bit more, what's the word? Anti-rules? Not anti-rules, anti the norm, let's say.
Hard to say. I guess a little bit, yes. I think it has not so much to do that I want to be against the norm, but I just feel like that too much of a structure, too much of a funnel, like constricting myself, doesn't feel good to me. I need to have space to breathe and to explore, kind of like, what can I do? And it always has been like this. This is also like my perfect learning ground, where I can openly explore with ideas, concepts, whatever, instead of being pressed into like a training program, for example. So definitely, yeah.
This makes me think, so sometimes on social media you like to rename move. Something that I really enjoy spectating, because there's can you explain the situation? So you like to make moves, make names, what happens?
Okay, so exactly this basically. I create moves, or I just do moves, and I name them. Sometimes I rename them, sometimes I ask people to give them a name. In all of this, obviously my intention is not to disrespect a name that is already there, given by a different discipline. It's just a thing that I'm really very curious of. The thing is, with names of moves, they can be very helpful, like learning a language, to have like a vocabulary, but then also giving them a specific name can connect you to the move a little bit better. So for me, for example, like a Jaguar, okay, it's a move that I called it like this. It's like a one-leg cartwheel, maybe, if you wanted to. But for me, the Jaguar adds so much more soul and character. And for me, it's like, now it's a Jaguar, as if I was a Jaguar, right? So the name-giving thing is not just a little thing, like a random thing, but it really also has a meaning for me to connect to it. Now, obviously, social media is full of people from all over the world, from different communities, different cultures. So I definitely get a lot of comments, people saying, nah, this is actually this from capoeira, this is actually this from breakdance, whatever. And I get that, but still I have a very strong opinion about that. Movement doesn't belong to anything. Of course, there are certain things that have been created by various people, and you need to respect that. But also there is a thing, and I think this is very interesting also to add now to this conversation, the idea of discovery on a small scale. So for example, if you go into an empty room and you would start practicing acrobatics, after 5 years, you would have probably found many acrobatic moves yourselves that are already existing in many disciplines, right? So who is now the founder? Is it you or is it someone else? And I think we all can be founders. We can all be discoverers. And many things that I find in my practice and I then name them, they have been there for many, many years, maybe 30, 50 years, whatever. But still, at this moment, I found them. And the name is obviously just my name. It's not a name that everyone should take.
Yeah. I think it's a nice distinction. It's finding out for yourself and being the founder for yourself, as opposed to being the global owner. Like, I'm the one who made this up and therefore it's mine. It's like, no, I found this through my own practice and therefore I can name it what I want because it's my thing.
Yeah.
And that's a really nice way of saying it. I think it relates really nicely to your idea of micro variations as well. So something that we've, when we've collaborated together, you've spoken a lot about micro variants in movements. Why do you talk about this, and what is the relevance?
Okay, so this idea now I think is very powerful, micro variation. It basically means, let's say to just have a move or like a very clear idea, let's take a cartwheel, we do a cartwheel, cool, nice. Then if we want to learn something else, instead of thinking very far away into different endeavors like a roll or a jump or whatever, no, let's stay with the cartwheel, but let's just look somewhere else. And all of a sudden you have a micro variation. It's not a big variation, it's just a small little change. But those small changes makes the practice so interesting and also long-lasting, something that you can do for ages, because you can always find little tweaks and micro variations. And this, once again, then keeps curiosity and interest alive. And also, for people to learn this is great, because you don't need to have such a broad skill set at first and go here and there. No, you can just do one thing and adapt a little bit. And already a small universe is being born out of that.
Yeah, I love this idea. Something that I think is really interesting, maybe I'm not sure if you've thought too much about it, but is the relationship from micro variations to risk and fear. And I think it's very interesting that offering people a greater variability or access to variability, let's say, in a given movement, gives them and their nervous system more opportunity to regulate what is normal. If I only do this one movement in exactly the same way, and 1 degree out from this way is wrong or feels bad in my body, it's quite likely that I might react in a strange way, which is more likely than not to be potentially dangerous or risky. Whereas on the flip side, if you're always training these micro variations and 1, 2, 3, 5 degrees out from the norm is completely fine and relaxed, you have more of a buffer zone. Do you feel this in your own practice or teaching?
Definitely. I think a nice analogy for that or metaphor could be, maybe you remember this video game, Age of Empire. Basically, you start somewhere on a map, and you have like a little map in the down corner, so you know where you are in the whole like scheme of the game. And then you start walking around, and with every step, this map gets bigger and bigger and starts to really unfold. And when you walk all across the world, you can see the whole map, right? So that's kind of like also the cool thing with the micro variations. You start to map out your world around yourself and the space around you. So definitely the more you can see on the map, the more you can navigate the map with confidence and trust, because you know what's there. And of course, possible to fully get the whole map, but that's not the point. The point is trying to find new pathways and new options. And definitely people feel this also when they're practicing acrobatic variations, like, oh, all of a sudden there is a pathway that has opened up just now, and now I can. Interesting.
100%. What's the name of the game? I think I need to play it to get better at my navigation skills.